Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your intuitive astrology forecast for the week of January 4th to the 10th of 2026. In this video, I will intuitively tune into my own higher self for both the major and minor aspects that will be happening this week, as well as an overall energy for the week at the end of the video, okay? Now, what I do here is mundane astrology, all right? This is not a sun sign or all signs kind of a forecast, because my guidance is that is just simply not accurate. If you want something personal for you, well, you need to get a personal reading, and you need to get it with someone that's going to look at your entire chart and not just one teeny tiny little part of it. All right. With that being said, this is of course mundane astrology. What is mundane astrology? This is the astrology that affects us all, which is globally, like politically, economically, that kind of stuff. So that will be the focus for this video. Now, I do offer personal readings. If anyone is interested, you can head over to mysticalmark.ca for all of that, or links in the description below. And as I say at the beginning of all of my videos, astrology, my guidance has been and likely always will be, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. Meaning it's like a math formula. There's variables that exist within that formula. We can change those variables. Okay? Simple as that, because of free will. All right? Now, again, I do this intuitively. So what I get intuitively coming through is at least the path or the plan as I'm recording this video. That is always 100% subject to change due to free will. So any future predictions that I make, anything like that regarding specific people or anything like that, is always 100% subject to change. That is for absolutely any intuitive reading that is done, whether it's for me or not, simply because of free will. Okay? With all that being said, let us jump into the charts for this week. Okay, so we're going to start here on Sunday, January 4th. Let me get my list here. So, first on my list is we're going to have Mercury here in biquintile to Uranus retrograde. So, there's actually lots of quintiles and biquintiles happening today. Interesting. Feels like there's a lot going on just in general with the quintiles and biquintiles, a lot going on behind the scenes that we're unaware of, but it feels very positive. There's a lot of work that's going on to really push and move us forward in a new positive direction. What I feel like is that's not really being shown in the media, or it may not be fully seen. Okay, but that's the overall vibe that I get with those quintiles as soon as I said that and was tapping into that energy. Specifically now, Mercury in biquintile to Uranus, we have got communication that is occurring regarding new commitments and partnerships, contracts, that kind of new, but basically we're dealing with Capricorn energy here. So as commitments and partnerships, we're committing to things through the action of talking about, okay, we're going to do this, that kind of stuff. And it's surrounding very positive. It feels like humanitarian change. It feels like humanitarian changes, but through understanding the value and worth of the people. Through understanding the value and worth of appropriate things and not the things that we used to think. Understanding the value and worth in change. Those are the kinds of things. And it's what I feel with that retrograde energy is it's away from those old things. Okay, it's reworking. What I'm getting now is the answer to that retrograde stuff is it's reworking these things in a more new and positive direction now at this point. Okay, but this is all happening. There's a lot of work that's going into this, and it's happening behind the scenes. We don't really see it. Okay, and hence the overall, what I said about those quintiles and biquintiles energy. Okay, we're also going to have the Sun here in quintile to Saturn as well. This feels very positive, as in there's positive new structures, boundaries, etc. That are being highlighted and used in these new commitments, etc. and going forward. We don't see this yet, though, is what I feel. That's very much this stuff that is being used and whatever in this way. It's very positive. It feels very positive, but we do not yet see it. For whatever reason, we are not yet able to see it because it could fuck it up. It could hinder what that is. at the moment at least. Eventually it will. It feels like it's going to be very short-lived in that sense. Eventually that will come out. But for the moment, in the time being, we can't see it or understand it. Well, we may understand it for those that can tap in and tune in, but we're not actually going to be able to see it. We're also going to have a Venus here as well, in quintile to Saturn. What I feel is there's people, a lot of people involved in those structures in creating what I feel like is boundaries, new positive boundaries, commitments, those kinds of things, ultimately moving forward. But it's working behind the scenes to build and create those things, to work on those things, to utilize those things in moving forward. But we don't fully see it yet. But this feels like a very positive underlying energy. Okay? So that is Sunday the 4th. Let's move on to Monday the 5th here. Monday the 5th, we have nothing really peaking on this day. Now, I say that, but what I'm being guided to again here is that these transits, I do it on the day that they're peaking. However, it's not always specifically going to happen on that day. That's when the energy peaks, but the energy builds to that peak, and then it also falls after that peak. So during that build and fall, that vibe is still there. Okay? So it's not always specifically on that day. And what I'm feeling to say is because of our calendar system and how it's built and functioned, is that there's certain days where there's holidays or there's weekends or there's these things that what I feel is like they really shouldn't be there. It's a structure that really shouldn't exist in the way that it does. But anyway, so these things will tend to fall and occur oftentimes off of that energetic peak. But when they can happen on their peak, they usually do. Okay, or you can sense the build up in the fall. There's a lot more nuance and stuff that's going on surrounding that than just it happening on that day. Okay, is basically the kind of point that I'm getting at here. So let's move on then to Tuesday the 6th, since there's nothing on Monday. Of course, this is when we're going to have Mars in semi-square to Black Moon Lilith and Sagittarius. What I feel with this is there's action being taken towards certain boundaries to not allow this outcasted negative behavior surrounding aspects of certain countries, etc. It's like not being allowed to hate on a certain country or do whatever in that sense, or almost like discriminate in certain ways or be racist or whatever, if you take it to that level. It's not being allowed to continue to happen, or not being allowed to happen in that way, or continue to happen in that way. We're moving away from that outcasted type of energy through outcasting people through those negative things, such as discrimination, racism, etc., and building almost like taking action towards better commitments and that kind of stuff. In that sense, okay, with that semi-square surrounding those kinds of things. So yeah, we're also going to have Pluto here in where am I? Semi-sextile to Juno. Okay, Juno now in Capricorn. This feels like commitments, because remember, Juno was like committed partnerships, that kinds of things, and in Capricorn we're dealing with making a commitment, goals, etc. This feels like commitments that are really there for the long haul in terms of pushing for the transformation and change that is needing to occur with that Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, that's what I get with that. We're also going to have here the Sun in conjunction to Venus. I'm also being drawn, for whatever reason, to bring up the fact of these conjunctions surrounding the Sun. I do astrology in terms of how I'm guided through intuitively. I was basically told initially to learn the foundations, learn astrology as it is typically known, and then use my intuition to basically forget half of it and understand through my guidance what is actually right and what isn't. Okay? Through this, what I'm trying to talk about is this aspect of things being combust. That what I get is that's not really true. Okay? The idea, the traditional astrology, if something's combust, then it weakens that planet. What I get is that what I feel is a strong, that's just wrong. That came from a place back in the day that was just, people were, it feels like, the energy that I feel like is people were just making shit up, is what I feel like. Back in that time, people were just making shit up to try to find, with that Beep agrees, to try to find a solution to something at the time, or fit something into something else, because they didn't fully understand the true depth and nuance of what this is that we can today because of technology. But what I feel like is they were just making shit up. So that idea of a planet being combust is just honestly fucking bullshit. So I'm bringing this up with a Sun conjunct Venus. This typically comes up with like Sun conjunct Mercury, like Mercury Gazimi kind of thing. But what I get is that traditional idea of that is complete and utter bullshit. My guidance is to treat it just like a normal conjunction. Okay, it doesn't matter that the sun is bright and it's drowning out. That's complete and utter nonsense. Because what astrology is really has nothing to do with what we can see. That is simply just helping us to understand from our level. But that really has nothing to do with it. You're, in essence, dealing with the cycle. Because we're on Earth, we're dealing with the cycle that exists between the Earth and the Sun that starts at the spring equinox here, with the ingress into Aries. And through that, every 30-degree movement is represented as an energy shift or a sign that, yes, visually at one time was represented by certain constellations. And that made it easy for us to see and understand, but that's not actually what it is. It deals a lot more with, the word I'm getting is sacred geometry, mathematics, frequency, vibration, that kind of stuff surrounding these cycles and what they do. This is existing more of on very much a cosmic level than what we're actually seeing or understanding this to really be. Okay, so this, basically what I'm getting at is astrology really isn't all that we've been really taught or have learned it to actually be. Some of it that is true, and there's lots of work that has gone into understanding a lot of things. However, a lot of especially the older stuff, because they didn't have the means to fully understand it, they were trying to understand something that was maybe shown to them or brought down to them, and they were trying to make something of it that wasn't really. They were trying to make mental sense of it when you can't really do it with the limited mindset that they had at that time. Okay? Or limited understanding, or not, or there was maybe deception involved or other things. There was a lot there that just is not right and not accurate for that time. We have more of an ability now in the modern world to more mentally accurately understand. However, that is only a small fraction of this. Okay? The actual real part in understanding this is connecting, I almost wanted to say cosmically, spiritually, quantumly, using that spiritual connection of ourselves, our higher selves, etc., our own frequency to connect and understand what this stuff actually truly means. Okay, that is what this is. That is what I do here. Okay, this is not traditional astrology. This is taking it and understanding intuitively through connecting through my own higher self multidimensionally and understanding what actually is real through what we know and understand and what isn't. And understanding that you have to use your intuition and to actually just connect to your own frequency and connect cosmically, connect to that higher level of yourself to actually truly understand the specifics of what this can mean for specific situations, for specific people, etc. So for an example, for you to come in and play the character of you or play the person of you in this lifetime, in order to create that character, you had to come in at a time where there were certain energetic cycles that existed that were conducive to creating that. Okay? And that's why you came in at a certain time, whatever, to play the character of you. This life is kind of like a video game. Your higher self, or the true version of you, is just playing this physical character. This isn't really who you are. Who you are is a much more advanced, strong being that your human mind can't even know or fathom or understand the capabilities that you really truly do have. Okay? But you're just playing this character in this life because you wanted to have this experience, or you had a specific mission, or you had whatever it is that you wanted to do, experience whatever in this lifetime, or whatever, that you came in as this character. And you came in with certain agreements and understandings and all of that, and you had to come in at a certain time that was conducive to creating that, hence your astrology chart. However, let's say you have Venus in Scorpio. That Venus in Scorpio for you, Scorpio has several different traits. Venus can honor several different things as well. What those specifics are that are unique to you, well, you need to tune into your intuition to understand why you chose those things specifically to come in as the character that you are. Okay, that's going to be different for you than it is going to be for somebody else with Venus in Scorpio. Plus, you have to take into account the aspect of the house that it's in, what it's aspecting, etc. And the houses I'm also being drawn to say are like a tuning mechanism, as in first house represents Aries but is not Aries, second house represents Taurus but is not Taurus, but it carries a similar energetic signature. Whereas if you want certain aspects of that energy to relate to whatever uniqueness you're trying to create with another sign, in that sign and what it's aspecting or whatever, you create that adjustment with the houses, which is why using a modern house system like Placidus is important for accuracy. Okay, we have the technology today to do it. Whole sign house is just fucking bullshit. Okay, I once did look at using whole sign house and got into that confusion thing. This was a very long time ago, and was told, oh, it's more accurate or whatever by certain people, and then was led back through my own guidance to realize that it's actually not. It's just fucking bullshit. What is the truth and more accurate is actually using a modern house system such as Placidus, because of that accuracy of your birthplace, etc. And because there's a lot more to this in terms of your placement, location, like the frequencies and the mathematics and all of that is truly involved here. Okay, and not just basically what we've been taught or even manipulated into believing in some ways. All right, basically what I'm getting at is there's a lot more to this than what we know or understand. And that's what I'm trying to show here and do here. I do this in my own unique way. Okay, I don't relate this to astrology in a traditional way at all. When I burp like that, it's usually for them saying pay attention. I don't relate this to astrology in a traditional way at all. I do this in my own unique way in terms of what I was guided to do to show this for what it actually is in a different, more, I almost want to say more true understanding, really. But yeah, so that's that. I feel like I've not wasted, but I spent a lot of time talking about that. Okay, so Sun conjunct Venus. Now that I went off on that, well, they wanted me to talk about it. I was going to say rant, but to talk about it. But Sun in conjunction to Venus here in Capricorn. Okay, there's a very strong illumination surrounding the people that are involved in these new commitments, but it feels like in setting boundaries, there's people that are willing to be committed to this new stuff and setting boundaries towards those that are maybe once in their place that can't continue to be there. I've said this before in previous videos, but these new people that are in place are very much almost being highlighted in a sense that they are doing a good job towards the commitments that are going to push us forward in a very positive way. I feel it's very positive in that sense. Okay. Also on this day too, Venus is going to be, going to be in semi-square to Juno as well. Okay. What I get with this is these people are I almost want to say upset or angry, but that's not really it. It's like there's a passion for a cause, but it's to set certain boundaries against those who are outcasting. Let's say this feels like, it doesn't feel like on the country level again. This feels like, it feels like the leaders that are involved in those countries. But it's setting boundaries towards certain people that are not allowing this new commitment towards peace and all of that, etc., and moving forward. What I'm getting is outcastedness is in terms of war that relates to fighting. You're saying, oh, you're different, I'm gonna, outcast you or something and fight you and blah, blah. It's like there's no more of that. It's setting boundaries against that and relating it towards but it's surrounding the people that are involved in that, which is basically the politicians, etc. And going against those that are like forward, like the negative stuff, and focusing more on those who are surrounding the areas of peace, those people and that kind of stuff. We're moving away from that discrimination or that negative aspect, or the people that are involved in doing that, pushing them to the side, getting them out of the way, and moving towards more positive people in their place. Okay, so yeah, that's Tuesday the 6th. Let's move on to Wednesday the 7th. Okay, we're going to have the sun, where are we here? Sun in semi-square to Black Moon Lilith now as well. This feels like more of a highlighting to that point in which certain things will no longer be tolerated in terms of, let's say, discrimination, racism, that kind of stuff, etc., and moving towards more of a kind of a peace. And when I mean not to be tolerated, it's like there's being a foot being put down using that Capricornian energy in order to do such a thing, basically. We're also going to have Mars here in quintile to Neptune. What I get is there's a force that is happening behind the scenes that is, it's almost like driving this action, whether it's dictating or saying do this, do that, whatever. But these people or whoever's involved feels very positive in this driving force to ultimately take action. This feels more of like building a new foundation now at this point. Take action towards building new foundations in a new positive way, new positive direction in this sense. We're not going to fully understand it though. What I'm getting is we're not going to fully understand it due to the limitations of what we're being shown and what we're able to see. And some of that is for good reason, simply so that it doesn't fuck everything up. Okay, we're also going to have Venus here as well in quintile to Neptune. To Neptune. Venus is also going to Mars on the state. We'll get to that in a sec. But Venus in quintile to Neptune. Okay, I'm getting to touch on this conjunction now too. Is that action is now involving certain people, it's not necessarily new people that I talked about, but it's involving people to take action towards pushing this stuff forward. It feels like that Neptunian energy is a separate group of people that is maybe dictating these other people. This is happening behind the scenes and is completely unknown to us, and we don't truly fully understand. It feels like it's not negative, it's very positive. This energy, or whatever this is that is helping people to understand how to take action, what to do, and get these people involved with this Venus aspect, a lot of these people involved in this positive action, in this positive way to do these things, to create these new foundations, etc. The sun is also going to be in quintile to Neptune as well. Okay, and with this, it's simply highlighting this, is what I feel like, all that I've already said. it's giving an energy to it, it's highlighting it, and it's showing that it's almost like there's a positivity there. It's an aspect of support in a way towards basically everything that I've already said. Remember, the sun in a sign is just highlighting or illuminating that energy, and that's ultimately kind of what I feel like this is in this sense, okay? Alright, that's Wednesday the 7th. Let's move on to Thursday the 8th. Of course, this is when we're going to have... Sorry, I'm just looking at it. My mind is like... I'm just thinking of other things. We're going to have this Mercury here in trine to the South Node and in sextile to the North Node. What I feel is this is related to the other planets and the Sun and everything else that I've talked about in previous videos making these same aspects. In that there's a strong highlight here towards what we need to let go. Okay, it doesn't actually feel that way. It's related, but okay, what? I was only getting part of it before. What do we... Okay, it's highlighted more on the new, but it's still related to that South Node. In terms of, okay, we're no longer doing this. It's like, we're no longer doing these things, we're no longer going to do these things, we're da-da-da-da. But the path forward is still, they know it. This is relating to like whether these politicians or people that are involved, they know the path forward, but it's going to make it seem like we don't really know and we're coming up with a plan or whatever to go forward. But the plan is already there. They know it. They know it. It's just it can't come out yet for whatever reason. For what I get is for safety, to protect it, and so that it doesn't become hindered in whatever way. Okay? Which is why we maybe don't fully understand what is going on, and what I'm getting is why the manipulation is strong now, because they're using that. There's certain media or whatever that's using that lack of understanding to push a different understanding that actually isn't truly there, because they don't have the full information. They don't have access to everything. Okay. We're also going to have Uranus here in biquintile to Juno as well. What this feels like is these committed partnerships and contracts that are really now actually committed towards pushing transformation and change and reworking things in a new positive direction to make progress. There is value that is being seen now. Value and worth is being recognized in more appropriate ways, and it is being seen now to make these changes and etc. appropriately. Okay, we have to remember Pluto is in Uranus' sign of Aquarius, and I feel like that is related here in terms of that transformational progress that needs to occur and moving forward through these committed partnerships that are now understanding and committed towards these processes. Okay, so that is Thursday the 8th. Let's move on to Friday the 9th here. On Friday the 9th, we're going to have this Sun in conjunction to Mars. Technically an exact conjunction with the Sun is known as a cazimi. Okay, so Sun conjunct Mars. This is highlighting very positive action steps and going forward. It's like there's new boundaries, there's new commitments, there's new foundations, and the action is being taken on that, and it's that those action steps are being highlighted. Like I said, they're being highlighted through this movement forward in a lot of these ways. Okay, I'm being drawn to this opposition to Jupiter, actually, with Jupiter retrograde in terms of what I said before and what was being brought back to us. There's something that's being brought back to us, and I feel like through these new foundations, commitments, this action, etc., through this Jupiter opposition, that through those commitments, actions, etc., that is what's being brought back to us in a lot of ways. It's stuff that maybe we haven't even experienced in our lifetimes. There's people that are alive that haven't experienced certain things that are about to come through that feel very and extremely positive, that is something that is being brought back to us. And it feels like it's surrounding peace and more appropriate loving kind of things and not what we've been experiencing before. Okay, I'm also being drawn to that square to Chiron, which is now direct here, in terms of moving forward, in terms of what I get is peace and ultimately healing, the independence, sovereignty, etc., by focusing on working things out at a higher level instead of how we've done so before. We're also going to have Venus in opposition to Jupiter. Sorry, that's Mercury. Venus in opposition to Jupiter here, exact opposition as well. What I feel like is there's an expansion of people involved there trying to nurture this path forward. It's bringing... what this Jupiter is bringing these people... It almost feels like bringing them back. Like they're back into a place where they were meant to be able to enact proper, positive... there's a commitment there. There's a goal there. To enact that goal, to enact that commitment in terms of that positivity that they committed to in the first place, to being able to move forward and such, etc., in this way. All right? There's also going to be Mercury here in sesqui-square to Uranus. Okay? That... feels like there's an aspect of awareness through communication, etc., through what truly actually has to continue to change and move forward. There's awareness being brought up, but it's like, okay, we got to do something. We got to do something. There's a plan that's being put in place. There's action being taken. It's Capricorn. It's putting in the work. It's doing that stuff. That awareness is coming up, but it's doing that stuff to take action, to enact that change, that push forward, that etc. that is going forward. There's a lot of positivity that's going on here. This is the first time I've ever felt Capricorn so positive, honestly. But it's using, like you said, this energy, like I've said before, this energy can be used it's how this energy is used, right? It can be used in positive and negative ways, but this feels very positive. And I've said this since a lot of this, we've had a lot of planets in Scorpio, so whether that was back in like October or whatever, that the energy is being used in a positive way, and ever since that point I've felt more and more positivity coming through with the energy is being used in these very positive ways, even if we don't see it being done so. Okay? That is Friday the 9th. And what I mean in being done so, what I mean is we may not see what is actually truly going on. Okay? We're just, like I said, there's the media and stuff that doesn't fully understand what is actually truly going on behind the scenes. They're only seeing something at face value, and they're relating it to what they've known from an old world perspective, which just simply isn't going to be accurate at all going forward. So just keep that in mind, okay? That's what I'm referring to. Now, Saturday the 10th here, we're going to have this last quarter moon, and of course the sun is going to be basically conjunct Mars and opposing Jupiter, and which is creating this T-square with the moon, okay? Let me just kind of get an overall vibe of this everything all at once. So this basically sun and Mars in opposition to Jupiter with this square to the moon. I'm feeling to just do this all at once, okay? So what does this entail? Okay, there's action steps being taken moving forward to achieve a certain set of balance and harmony relating to what is being brought back to us. And it's really being pushed at, it almost feels like at an accelerated rate. But we're being put in the work, making the foundations, making the commitment, the foundations, but the work, all of that at an accelerated rate, and taking action towards these things to achieve an appropriate state of harmony and balance in all of this as we begin to move forward. And the Jupiter is expanding all of this. It's expanding all of this. It's bringing back what needs to be brought back and all of this to make us, what I want to say is more comfortable, more... almost like more nurtured, more comfortable, but there's I'm almost not really touching on it in that sense. It's like just whatever is being brought back to us to achieve that state of balance. And I'm being drawn to say here now as well that oppositions and squares aren't negative. Well, they can be, Any aspect can be negative, but any aspect can be positive too. It's just opposition pushes for balance, a square pushes for resolution. This is pushing for that balance and resolution, and that ultimately the action that is necessary to take shape and using all these energies to push forward, but it's doing this in a positive way, okay? To enact and to create these things and move forward in this sense. All right. Anyway, that is the end of this week. I'm going to bring it back to myself here. Okay, so let me just tune in the overall vibe for this week. What I get is it's the build up towards the end of the. What I get is. I get this aspect of, okay, it's that Neptunian stuff in square to like Venus and all of that I talked about there. The aspect of almost like it's a mentorship towards people in terms of the proper things to take action and do. I feel like that's the highlighted thing that's putting in the work to do all this. Are we going to see it? No. But that's the highlighted energy that is actually really occurring behind the scenes this week in terms of this stuff taking place. Okay, what I'm getting is we're not really maybe going to see it till the end of the week with that quarter moon T-square. Okay? Or we're not going to feel or sense, are we going to see the whole, no. But we're going to sense more of maybe what has been going on, but we're not going to see the whole picture. We're not seeing it for what it actually is. But what I'm getting is there's very positive stuff that is occurring, but we're just not being shown it, but that's the highlighted energy for the week. Those that are in the know are in the know. Let's just put it that way. Okay? With all that being said, we've made it to the end of this video. If you made it this far, please leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one. And I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care, everyone. Bye.